Good day. So today we'll be talking about quadratic equations. So what we are doing today basically in quadratic equations is the introduction. We'll learn about quadratic equations and the different method in which we solve quadratic equations. And we are going to talk about just one of those methods today. Subsequently, we'll be treating other methods. And I also want you to know that quadratic equations is a topic under algebra, so you would have to see a lot of x's and y's. Okay, so quadratic equation are second degree algebraic expressions. Second degree algebraic expressions are usually in a form of this, as ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So I'm going to cite you an example of how a quadratic equation looks like, though you can also find it in the other next slides that I'll be given. But right from here, let me just show you how a quadratic equation looks like. So you have an idea. Okay, so let's go. So it looks like a. So where the a there could be, let's assume 2. So you will have the 2x squared. Then b would be probably another number. Let's assume 3. So we would have 3x. And of course c will be another number again, which we could say 5 equals 0. So a, b, and c are mostly called constants. They are called constants. So then we have coefficients like this x squared. Now the 2 there is the coefficient of x squared, and 3 here is the coefficient of x. The term quadratic comes from a Latin word called quadratus, which means square. So this refers to the fact that the variable x is squared in the equation, as you can see in this place, x squared. That is why it is called the second degree algebraic expression. The first degree algebraic expression would not have any squares or cubes and all that. The second degree would have square, and the third degree would have cube. So x cube or y cube or a cube or whatever it is. So quadratic equations not only have x's, sometimes of course they can be any letter, just like algebra is concerned. Okay, so in other words, algebraic equations or a quadratic equation is an equation of the degree 2. There are many scenarios where quadratic equation is used. Did you know that when a rocket is launched, is launched, its path is described by a quadratic equation? Further, a quadratic equation has numerous applications in physics, in engineering, and also in astronomy. So quickly, let's see what quadratic equation is all about. So the standard form, like I told you, is this, where a is the coefficient, the number before x squared, coefficient of x, the b is the coefficient of x here, and c is a constant. It does not have any x's or the variables. There's no variable there at all. Okay, so moving forward, we have examples of quadratics here, quadratic equations, and we can see that these ones are equal to 0 or 3 equal to 0, and these ones have the constants of c. You can find the constants of c here. As you can see, these are the constants of c. And then the one for the bx are the second one right here, right here, right here, right here. So you might be wondering that this x here does not have a b, like a number in front. It actually has is a 1. There's a 1 there. So any variable you see standing alone isn't really standing alone. There's an invisible 1 in front of it. So if it's going to be a 2, is going to be written there, but if it's going to be a 1, usually because 1x actually also means just 1x, just x in one place. So there's no need for you writing 1x since the x has been written there. If it were 2x, that means you have to write the x in two places, x and x. So of course, probably there's no space for that. And then the next set of quadratic equations are the ones that we don't have the c constant term there. You can see this one, we have the ax here at the front, the one with the second degree there, and then we have the bx here, but the c is not there. They are also valid quadratic equations. They are also very, very valid quadratic equations. So moving forward, quadratic equations can be solved with four basic ways. The first way is factoring. There's factoring method. Some people say factorization method. We have the completing the square using the quadratic formula and taking the square root. So for your level, would this is year 9, so we'll be treating basically maybe 2, 1 and 3, factoring and using quadratic formula. I might just chip in 2, the second one also, which is completing the square. So get ready for that. So today we are only going to deal with factoring. So we are dealing with factoring, and these are the steps if you want to do factoring. Now remember what a factor is, because if you don't assimilate that, swallow that, understand that, it's very impossible for you to solve quadratic equations using factoring method. Now a factor is any number that can divide another number. Let me use that term to explain that first before we go to use other stuffs. Um, any number that divides a bigger number is known as a factor. For example, I have 20. Factors of 20 will be 2, will be 4, will be 5. And 20 itself, because 20 can also divide 20. So those are the factors, numbers that can divide another one. You get it? So if I say x, for example, what are the factors of x? Definitely x will be a factor of x because x can divide x. X divided by x is 1. So if I give you an example like 2x and I say what are the factors of 2x? 2x. What numbers or let me say digits can divide 2x? This 2x. So first you can use 2 to divide 2x. So that's a factor. You understand? You can also use x to divide 2x. Of course, this will cancel out this. So factors of 2x would be 2 and then also x. So I want you to assimilate that very well, understand that, and then of course we move on from there. So the first thing is we need to begin the equation in this form, and it must be set to have equal 0. That means it must be equal to 0 like this for you to be able to do the factorization method. That means that if on this side where the 0 is, there's a number there, let's assume it's 2, you have to take the 2 to the left hand side so that what you will have here would remain 0. So 2 comes here to meet whichever one is there, and then you solve it there. And then also the next step is for you to now factor this left hand side. When I'm treating the examples, you understand what I mean by factoring the left hand side by assuming 0 on the right hand side. And then you assign each factor equal to 0 and then solve the equation. So let's go through the steps by doing these examples. Okay, so this one has been done for you, although I have example 2, and example 3, and example 4 that we will do ourselves. But example 1 has been done, so I want to take you through the steps that arrived us at this answer: x is equal to -2 and x is equal to 8. Okay, we change the color for this. All right, so we have this quadratic equation x squared minus 6x equals 16. X squared minus 6x equals 16. So remember the first step for factoring. It says that we should always equate to 0. So that means on the right hand side here, we have to have a 0. Do you get it? That will entail me moving this one out of here to this place on the left hand side. So you remember your basic mathematics that any number standing alone has a plus in front of it. So when it leaves this place and goes to the other side, it becomes a minus 16. If it was a minus here, if it goes to the other side, it becomes a plus. So this becomes a minus 16. Of course, we have the x squared minus 6x already there. And then because it leaves this place, obviously there will be nothing here, so we fill it with a 0. So that way you have equated it to 0. So it also applies if what you have here is more than just one number. You could be at this side, you could have another 2x, for example. So you move everything to the left hand side. I think I have an example like that. Example 2 should be like that. So we'll also treat that. So first step, equate to 0. Now the second step is mostly where the issue is. It requires a lot of thinking, and I want you to listen to this very well. You understand? Listen to this very well. Now, for you to solve question step 2, you have to understand what factors are. Factors. Now, I want to get, I must have two numbers that when I multiply them, I will get 16. Two numbers, when I multiply them, I will get 16. And when I do any addition or subtraction between them, I will get a 6. The same two numbers. I'll repeat myself. Two numbers that when they are multiplied, not divided, when they are multiplied. Remember that factors, you must multiply factors with a certain number to get another larger number. So those two numbers must be multiplied together to get this constant here. That's the C constant. And then those same two numbers must be able to be added or subtracted in whatever way to get minus 6 here. Minus 6 in this place. So it requires you having a knowledge of how numbers can be multiplied or added or subtracted using minus and pluses. So I will think of two numbers. 4 times 4 gives me 16. So I want you to put on your thinking cap along with me. So 4 times 4 gives me 16. So when I do 4 times 4, to get minus 16, I have to definitely do either plus 4 times minus 4. Plus 4 times minus 4, because plus times minus here will give me a minus that I'm looking for. So 4 times 4 is 16. Or I can do minus 4 times plus 4. Okay, so having gotten that for this place, now how do I add 4 and 4 or subtract 4 and 4 to get 6? You will notice that there is no way I can't do minus 4 minus 4. Minus 4 minus 4 is minus 8. I'm owing 4, I'm owing 4 again, will give you minus 8. I can't do 4 plus 4, that will give me 8. I can't do 4 minus 4 to give me 0. But so I have to get a 6. That's the idea behind this thing there. I have to get a 6 here using what I multiplied here. So if 4 and 4 can't work, I have to look at two other factors that I can multiply together that would give me 16. But when I also do a plus or minus, that will give me 6. So that is another two factors that will multiply each other to get 16 is 8 and 2. So, and when I do 8 times 2, this is a plus and this is also a plus. So 8 times 2 plus times plus will give me a plus, and that would have given me plus 16, which I can also leave like this, plus 16. But I'm looking for minus 16. That means that there must be a sort of minus. One of these must have a minus. So I would assume that I want to put the minus to this 2 and leave the plus here. So 8 times 2 is 16, plus times minus is minus. So minus 16, I've gotten that. But I also need to check whether if I do plus 8, like I have here, plus 8 minus 2, so I'm going to write it out here, plus 8 minus 2. Plus means I'm having that amount of money. Minus means I'm owing. I'm going to take away what I'm owing. So I'm having 8 naira. When I take away 2, which is minus, it will give me 6, which also means that I'll be having 6 with me, which is a plus. But you notice that the 6 we have here is a minus. So definitely it's not going to be plus 8 and minus 2. You have to do a switch of the signs. So it's going to be minus 8 instead of plus 8, it'll be minus 8, and then instead of minus 2 is going to be plus 2. If you multiply this, 8 times 2 is 16, and minus times plus will also give you a minus. So we are right with the multiplication. So we are just trying to solve the addition and subtraction part. So I'm owing 8 naira, but I'm having 2 naira. Plus means I'm having, minus means I'm owing. So this will mean that I would pay the 2 naira that I'm having with me because I'm owing 8. So I remove the 2 that I'm having with me and pay a bit of my debt. So when I give whoever I'm owing 8 naira and I give the person the 2 naira I have, that means that I pay part of my debt, but I will still be owing 6 naira. So that's a minus. That's why we have a minus here. So our answer that we would use is going to be plus 8 and minus 8 and plus 2. And that's why we have it here as minus 8x. You have to put the x there, and plus 2. Minus 8 plus 2x. So minus 8x, let's assume the x is naira. So minus 8 naira plus 2 naira. I'm owing 8 naira, but I'm having 2 naira. I'm owing 8 naira, but I'm having 2 naira. So I pay my 2 naira, off out of the 2 naira that I'm having, just pay it off. So I will still be owing 6 naira. So having done these 2 steps, that second step is just where the thinking, a lot of the thinking is. Anything from here is just piece of cake. So now, when you have gotten this, all you now need to do is also factor it out. Factor it out means that what is common between this one and this one? What is common between x squared and x? What can I find here and I can also find here? You find that I can find x here and I can find x here. So that is why that factor I can find in both of them, I bring that factor out. You see that? So I bring it out here. So I divide x, that's the first one here, by that factor. So x squared divided by x, that's x. X squared is x times x. You understand? X times x, that's x squared. And I divide it by the factor that is common between both of them. That's divided by x. That will give me x left. This cancels out this. So give me x there. So that's the x I'm putting inside the bracket. And then my minus sign. And of course, 8x divided by the factor that I use. 8x divided by x will give me 8. That's why we have this here. You get it? That's why I have this here. So you go to the next two at this side also. You look at it and say, okay, what factor is common between 2x and this? Of course, we can't use x again because though there's x here, but there's no x here in 16. So we can't use x. So the next thing we can do is use a digit. Obviously, a number will be what will be common between both of them. So, of course, 2 can divide this, and also 2 can divide this, 16. So 2x divided by 2. I'll first bring the 2 out. You see that? Then open a bracket. So 2x divided by 2 will remain x. See that? And my minus sign. So 16 divided by that same 2 again will give me 8. Now, the trick here also is that whatever you get in the first bracket, you must get it in the second bracket. If you did not get the 2, that means your factorization method was wrong. So you have to go over it again. You get it? So you have to go over it. And what you get here, you must also get in this next bracket here. So now that you have gotten both of them equally, so what you have to do here is this x plus 2, bring it out into a bracket, out equals 0, and then you choose one out of these two here and bring it out also separately. So this will mean then you now solve it like your normal solve both of them, each of them separately, like your normal algebraic equation. You know, the one you did in year 6. Okay, so this would obviously go to the other side. Is a plus here. When it goes to the other side, it becomes a minus. That's why we have x equals minus 2 at this side. And then x minus 8 here, the minus 8 goes to this other side. You know, it's a minus here, it goes to the other side, it becomes a plus. So that's why it's 8 here. Plus 8 is also the same thing as 8. So our final answer is that x equals minus 2 and x also equals 8. You can check by substituting minus 2 into the value of this equation up here. You would see that you will get it. You can also substitute 8 into this place. You will also get your answer correctly. Okay, so let's go to example 2. Example 2. Now we are going to solve this ourselves. It's not like this one that we have it already solved. So we are solving this by ourselves. So let's go. Now remember, on one side there must be 0. So everything on this side must leave in that color. Okay, everything on this side must leave. So we'll take it one after the other. This is y squared. So first and foremost, minus 6y leaves this place to the other side, becomes plus 6y. That's the first one. And then the next one here is minus 5. If it leaves this place and goes to the other side, it becomes what? Plus 5. You see what I did there? Just gently, step by step, don't jump step, don't skip steps. So, and then since both of them have left this place, what I'll be having here will be 0. So we have our equal to 0 equation. Okay, so now the next step is for us to apply our factors as usual. So remember that I said that you must get two factors, and when I multiply together, it will give me 5. But when I do addition or subtraction, it will give me a 6 plus 6 here. So now let's look at two factors. When I multiply together, it will give me 5. Of course, the only two things I can multiply together to give me 5 is 5 and 1. So 5 times 1 will give me 5 here. So to also get my 6, what do I need to do? You know, it's a plus 6. Don't just say 6, it's a plus 6. So that means that to do a plus 6, I must do plus 5 and also do plus 1. That's I'm having 5 here with me, and I'm also having 1. That means that I'll be having plus a total of 6 plus 6. So all these signs you must take notice. One of the reasons people don't pass maths much is they don't pay attention to details. If you don't pay attention to the signs here, you would probably miss it. And imagine you put a minus anywhere in this place. You have missed it completely. So that means that our factors, the factors we'll be using will be plus 5 and plus 1. So now let's bring in this plus 5 plus 1 into this equation just to replace this one. Remember what we did in the former one here. you see that it was this minus 6 we replaced with the 8 and 2. The 16 was still there. So this one, you are replacing this plus 6 alone. You still leave your 5. So now follow me as we do together. So plus 5, we'll put plus 5, but don't forget that there is an unknown there, a variable there, y. It must be there. And plus 1, and that'll be plus 1y. Plus 1y. You know, we don't write plus 1y, so we just write plus y. The coefficient here is 1. I mentioned it earlier. And then you bring down your 5. So if you did your work and you did it up to this extent, superb work. Superb. Now the next step is for us to look for the factor that will divide these two and the factor that will divide these two. So look at it very well. You see what is common here and here is y. So y, that y that is common between these two, I'll bring it out and open and close the bracket. So I'll now do y squared divided by y. Y squared divided by y will give me y. You see that? And then 5y divided by 5 will give me 5. You should, I'm not sure I should be spending much time in that. 5y is 5 times y, and if I divide it by y, the y cancels out. So it means a 5. So this is a 5 here. Remember, there is a sign in between them, and that is a plus. Okay, now let's go to the other part. Having done this one, we go to the other part. What is common between y and 5? What factor can divide y and can also divide 5? Now, it's a bit confusing because you look at it and say, you can, of course, you cannot use y. Y can only divide this one. It cannot divide this one. And y can divide this. And 5 can divide this, cannot divide this. So, the next closest thing you could use is 1. Y can divide, y divided by 1 will give you a y. 5 divided by 1 will also give you a y. So, that will be plus 1 written outside. And then the result of your division will stay inside the bracket. So y divided by 1 is a y, and plus 5 divided by 1 will also give me a 5. So remember what I said the other time, that this place and this place must be the same. If after you do this and you don't get the same in this place, look at what you did again. Very possible what you did at this part here, you look at it again. You understand? So now that I've gotten the same thing, so I can move on. Remember I said this one and this one and this one here, you bring it out. That's y plus 1 equals 0. And at this other side, you also do y. You choose one of the ones in the bracket because they are also the same. Y plus 5 equals 0. Okay, so this one goes to the other side. That will give me y equals minus 1. You know, there's a plus in there. It moves to the other side, becomes a minus. And then here is a plus 5. If it moves out, it becomes a minus 5. So the final answer here is y equals minus 1, or I can write it like this, minus 5. Or you can leave it as y equals minus 1 or y equals minus 5. So you do it like this, you've solved it very, very correctly. Okay, let's go to example 3. Remember, we have 4 examples to solve. So now let's go to example 3. Now, example 3, just like the first one, remember on your right hand side must be a 0. So we move our minus 6 out of here. So x squared minus 5x. So this is a minus, it moves into this place, it becomes a plus. So plus 6. x squared minus 5x plus 6 equals 0. You see that? So we must always equate the right hand side to 0. So minus 6 goes, jumping the equal to sign becomes a plus. So first step done. Second step, as usual, is to get what I would multiply together to get 6. And when I add and plus them together, it will get 5. So remember that 6 times 1 is 6. And then also 3 times 2 will give me 6 times. So now, the signs is where the issue is, because this is a plus. So all my multiplication, if I do 6 times 1, it will give me a plus. If I do 3 times 2, it will give me a plus. These are pluses, plus 6, plus 1, plus 3, plus. So plus times plus is always landing as a plus. You get it? But the problem here, if I'm using plus, 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 plus for all this, is that I'm having a minus here. So if I do plus 3 plus 2, I'm having 3 and I'm having 2. It will be I'm having 5. That's a plus 5. But what I have here is a minus 5. If I do plus 6 and plus 1, of course, plus 6 times plus 1 will give me a plus 6. You get it? Because 6 times 1 is 6 and plus times plus is plus. But if I do the addition, like plus 6 plus 1, I'm having 6 and I'm having 1, that will give me, I'm having 7. So it's not arriving at this. So that means there must be a minus in one of this. So the idea there is this. If I do minus 3 times plus 2, for example, so minus times plus is a minus. If I'm multiplying and I'm having a plus here, so definitely it can't work. You see that? It can't work. So what I just need to do is I have to get two signs that when I multiply them together, it will give me a plus. The only two signs that if I multiply them together to give me a plus is plus and plus, or minus and minus. And we have tried plus and plus here. It wasn't working really well. So minus times and minus, minus, minus. So let's try minus, minus. So minus 3 minus 2. So the idea is here is that minus times minus is a plus, agreed. And then 3 times 2 is a 6, agreed. So now let's go to this minus 5 part. I'm owing 5 naira. I'm owing 3 naira. That's minus 3. And I'm also owing 2 naira. That means I'm owing 3 and I'm owing 2. That would be I'm owing a total of 5. That's minus 5. So that's exactly what we are looking for there. So the factors we'll be using is going to be minus 3 minus 2. Minus 3 minus. So come here and insert it gently. So minus x squared. Remember that what you are changing is substituting is only that minus 5x. So that would be minus 3x and also minus 2x. Minus 3 minus 2. And then our plus 6 stays and equals to 0. Now, applying the factors. What can divide both of these and what can divide both of these? So let's start with this. What can divide both of these is an x, of course. Common, factor. So x squared divided by x will give me x. And is a minus. 3x divided by x is a 3. So that's solved. So what is the common thing here? Common here. Is 2. 2 is the common one there. 2 can divide this, 2 can divide this. But we have to be careful because there's a minus here. Did you see that? So if I put a minus 2 here, minus 2x divided by minus 2, like this minus 2 cancels out minus 2. What I will have left, I'll stay in the bracket is a x. So you also need to check also immediately minus 2 times x will give me minus 2. Now, this is where the issue is. It's with this second one. So 6, let me do it here. Okay, so 6 divided by this minus 2. Of course, this will give me a 3, right? So, but you cannot leave it like that. Your minus must stand, so it's minus 3. So that means that the plus I wrote here can't work. You get it? Because if I put a plus 3 here, watch what will happen. If I put a plus 3 here and I close the bracket, if I'm to even check, minus 2 times plus 3 minus times plus is a minus. And what I'm supposed to get is a plus. So that's why that cannot work. So the best thing I can do here is use a minus at this part. Minus times minus, that's minus 2, minus 3, minus times minus is a plus, and 2 times this. Okay, so you see that at this side and at this side now we have the same thing. So equals 0. And then I'm having x minus 2 as this and this equals 0. And I'll pick one of the ones in the bracket, x minus 3 also equals 0. Okay, so of course minus 2 goes to the other side, becomes a plus. So that will be x equals plus 2, which is also 2. And at the other side, minus 3 goes to the other side. That will give me x equals plus 3, which is also 2. The answer is x equals 2 or x equals 3. I hope you understand that. So let's go to number 4, and we'll use that to call it a day. Okay, now this one has been given to us, but you notice that at this part, like instead of the other one, that we don't have a coefficient in front of x. Here there's no coefficient in front of y square. Also here there's no coefficient in front of x square. But here you see that there's a coefficient there. So you also mind that when you are working. And this has already been equated to 0 for us. So we move on with what will I multiply together to get this, and blah 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 blah. So we have a 6 here, what we did here before. So what we did was 3 and 2. So we can't use 6 and 1, because there's no way you can do minus 6, minus 1 and all that to get, the coefficient here is 1. So we'll do 3 and 2. And 3 times 2 is 6, but if you are subtracting, that means that I have to do 3 minus 2. That's plus 3 minus 2. If I do plus 3 minus 2, that means my answer is going to be plus 2. No, sorry, plus 1. I'm having 3 oranges, but I'm owing 2 oranges. So I gave 2 out of the 3 I'm having. So I'm still going to be having 1. But what we need here is not a plus 1, it's a minus 1. So that means that we have to interchange these signs. So that means minus comes first and plus goes next. Minus times plus is here. 3 times 2 is here. Correct? Then now let's go for this one. I'm owing someone 3 naira, but I'm having 2 naira with me. So I remove the 2 naira I'm having with me and give to the person I'm owing. I will still be owing the person 1 naira, so minus 1. So that means that solves what we have here. So we are using this minus 3 plus 2. So 2x, now let's start. 2x squared minus 3x, remember your x must be there, and then my plus 2, this one, plus 2x, then minus 6 equals 0. Okay, let's go for the factor that is common between this and the factor common between this. Okay, so what can I find here and can also find here? It seems it can only be x, only one x. So we bring the x out and then we do the divisions. So 2x squared divided by x. 2x squared is 2 times x. You know it's x squared, so x is coming twice, times x. So we divide it by the x we are using as a factor. So this will cancel that one of the x's. So what we have left is 2 times x, which is 2x. That stays in the bracket. And then 3x divided by x is 3. So minus 3. Are you with me? So let's check before we move forward. X times 2x. This x multiplying this x will give me x squared. And then our 2 is there, so 2x squared. We are right with that. And then this is a minus 3 times x is 3x. Correct. So let's move to the next one. So what's the factor common between this and this? I think that's a 2. 2 is the common factor between 2 is the common factor between this and this. So if I use a 2, 2x divided by 2 will give me x. Sorry, I have to put the 2 outside. So 2x divided by 2 here will give me x. And minus 6 divided by this will give me minus 3 equals 0. So when you look at this very, very well, you notice that you can't move forward. Why? Because this one is not the same as this one. Now, I intentionally put this question there because I know it's not a correct quadratic equation. So if you arrive at this, you back a bit, you go back a bit and check if your workings are correct, if the factors you used are correct. For 6, for example, there's nothing you can do except 3 and 2. You can't use 6 and 1. You cannot get, if you use 6 and 1, you cannot get 1 here when adding or subtracting. You get it? So that means that this question is wrong. I just had to put it there for you to also understand that there are sometimes questions can come to you. Just ensure you double check first before you assume that the question is wrong. You get it? So this is not possible at all, because according to what we have here, you see that 2 times x give me 2x, and 2 times 3 here give me 6. So I'm right with whatever I did all around, right from here down to this place. You get it? So that means that this question itself is not a quadratic equation. Okay, so we've come to the introduction of quadratic equation. I hope you understand factorization method, this factoring method. You can go over the video again and again. If you have any questions, send to me, and I will also be sending some list of questions to you for you to solve, at least 5. So please do that. Practice, practice, practice. Mathematics is all about practice. If your teacher teaches you something, you have to go back and continue practicing until you become a master of it. Until next time, when we treat the part 2 of quadratic equation, goodbye.